Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. We come now to the Bible Bistro to verse 8 of Psalm 82. This is our last verse, and we end with, I would say that we have, again, we've had the Lord speaking all the way up through here, but verse 8 is either Asaph speaking, or it is God speaking to Messiah. So you take your pick there. I think I would like to say that this is the Spirit of God speaking to Messiah, or Asaph, inspired by the Spirit of God, speaking to Messiah. So let's read verse 8. Arise, O God, judge the earth, for thou shalt inherit all nations. All right, well, there's our word judge again. We've had judge all through this. It's occurred, as I say, 4 times. Once in verse 1, once in verse 2, once in verse 3, and then now here in verse 8. This word is a theme, stretches the entire length of the psalm. He asks the question, why aren't you judging rightly? He tells us how to judge rightly, defend the poor, the fatherless, do justice to the afflicted and needy, and so forth. He tells us why we should judge rightly, because the wicked, they don't understand. Somebody has to judge rightly, because the wicked, they'll never understand. They walk on in darkness. And so unless somebody judges rightly, everything would go wrong. And then we have 6 and 7. We have the great contradiction of the fall. We're the image bearers of God, and yet we fall like any prince. No, it doesn't matter what royalty and what lineage or house you come from. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to die, and you die not because that has to do with your lineage, but it has to do with the fall of Adam. Well, I guess it does have to do with your lineage, doesn't it? It's Adam who's caused this. We're the image bearers of God, and yet because of our corruption, because of Adam's fall, and our actual sin, then we're going to die like men, fall like one of the princes, because we received the curse of death. And of course, Jesus talked about this particular verse, verse 6, in John chapter 10, and he used it to say to them, well, I am the Son of God. I and my Father are one. The Father is in me and I in him. And the Jews, the elders of the Jews, they just, threw their hands up and they were getting ready to stone him. So we have this is just a wonderful psalm. And then we come down here to verse 8, and the psalmist Asaph wraps it all up by saying, Arise, O God, judge the earth. So true judgment, where does it come from? It comes from God. And no matter how righteous and no matter how just our judgment is, because we make it, it is stained by our own corruption, and it is stained by our own fallibility. But one day, the Lord is going to return, and He is going to exact righteous judgment on the earth. Arise, O God, judge the earth. He is coming to set right again the foundations of the earth. There in verse 5, all the foundations are out of course. Well, He's going to put it all back together, and He's going to do it in righteousness, and there will be no fallibility. There will be no corruption in His judgment, because He will do it rightly and justly. Yeah. For thou shalt inherit all nations. The thou there, speaking of, O God, there's the antecedent, shall inherit all nations, takes us back to Psalm 2. Remember at the end of Psalm 2? We're talking about the Son of God. He's coming with that rod, and He's going to break into pieces the nations. But it says there at the end in verse 8 that He shall inherit all of the nations. So this is, I think, points us back to Messiah. As I said, the Spirit of God looking to Messiah, which is the Lord Jesus, because He connects Himself to this verse, or to this passage, and this passage connects us back to Psalm 2, and Psalm 2 is looking at the Son of God who is coming, and He will judge all things. So we're looking forward to the Messiah's future possession and reign over the earth. Psalm 82, learning to judge. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you will join me again next week, and we'll study Psalm 83 here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.